Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I want to show you a quick introduction to shading in Blender. So let's just begin. Let me just delete all of this stuff. So as you can see, to create a new material in Blender, all you have to do is go to your material properties here and click New, and this will create a new material. Same thing you can do inside your node setup. So as you can see, we have the same button that says New, and that will create a material as well. On the left side here, I'm inside my shading workspace. On the left side here, you have your file management. You can pull up your textures and drag and drop them inside your main node setup. On the bottom left, you have your image viewer, basically used for um, sampling colors with your eyedropper. As you can see, for example, I can just eyedrop a color in from this image, or this can be used just for reference. It's really up to you. Over here, this is where we take care of all the nodes in Blender and set up complex or basic materials. On the right side, you have your um, all the objects that you can select from here, or you can select them inside your viewport. It's really up to you. And on the right side on the bottom here, we have our material properties. It's basically the same thing as you see with nodes, but more visual. And in here, you can have multiple materials. So let me just select this plane. As you can see, the Uber shader of Blender is Principal BSDF. So this shader takes care of all the looks inside of Blender, from just a simple color to metallic, shiny objects, plastic, and so on. Then you have your fabrics, clear coat for, um, like car materials and so on. Then you have your glass and your IOR settings, your emission, normal, and also your opacity or alpha. So as you can see, the shader really, like you can do a lot of the shader and create any look you want basically. So for shading in Blender, you can do it manually just by doing Shift A and looking for a node that you want. And the most used node is image texture. This node, basically, you can open up an image. In my case, is brick, and all you have to do is plug in inside base color. And as you can see, we have our brick texture plugged in the color of this BSDF. So this is one of the main things you can be doing, is doing Shift A, looking up a texture or a node, and playing around, mixing them, and so on. A really useful add-on to turn on is if you go to Edit Preferences, Add-ons, and make sure you turn on Node Wrangler. This is basically an add-on that speeds up the workflow inside the shading network. So to give you a quick example, right now I have this brick texture, and it's plugged in inside base color, but it doesn't have any mapping. I cannot rotate, I cannot scale this image. So what you can do is click Control T, and as you can see, automatically adds a mapping node and texture coordinates. And from here we can, for example, double up this texture and scale it. We can rotate it, as you can see, and also we can change the location. So with Control T, you can control all of this stuff. It's not available to you in vanilla Blender because you have to do mapping, plug it in, and then you have to do texture coordinates and plug it in as well. So as you can see, it just saves you 2 different steps, and it's really useful to have. Another thing that's good with Node Wrangler is let me just do another image texture and do the same brick. And for example, you really have complex setup with a whole bunch of different nodes. What you can do is do Alt Shift and drag. As you can see, we have this little blue arrow that comes out. And if you let go, it's going to tell you where you want to plug in from and plug in to. Let's see if I do it again. It's going to be from color to base color. And this really helps when you have a lot of nodes going on, and you cannot really, zoom in and pinpoint and connect each of these nodes. So that saves you some time where you do Alt Shift and then drag out and let go, and you can choose where you want to plug it in. That really helps. Another thing that's great about Node Wrangler is if you have a full material setup or you download it from somewhere, what you can do is highlight Principal BSDF and do Control Shift T. And as you can see, I have 5 different textures from bricks. So I can just highlight them all and do Principal Texture Setup. What that's going to do is set up a full workflow for you from mapping, from texture mapping or texture coordinates to mapping, and split it into all of the textures that you had. So from displacement to normal to roughness and base color. Also give you an ability to invert your roughness because sometimes it doesn't come in properly. So you can always invert it, which is good. Also sets up the normal map for you. Usually this is too high, so we can do 0.2, and also sets up the displacement as well. Some renders like Eevee doesn't, like Eevee I have right now, doesn't support displacement, but if you work with cycles, the displacement is supported, which is good. So this is the basic introduction to shading. Just to give you a quick rundown of what's going on with the principal BSDF. Um, the specular tint is basically takes your base color and applies that tint onto your object. So as you can see right now, if I zoom in, the specular is white. If I do specular tint, it's really hard to see, but it changes to light orange instead of being just white. So that's the option for that. Clear coat is your car material. As you can see, it just gives you a clear coat on top of your existing mesh, and you can control the roughness here. This can be useful sometimes, but it's mostly used for car materials. Emission is really hard to show in this case because I'm inside the preview of materials, and it's not going to show up. For emission, as you can see, you can turn your plane into a light source, which can be useful sometimes. And also you have your alpha, which is opacity. As you can see right now, if I turn it to 0, it turns black. But what you have to do is click N, go to your options, change the blending mode from opaque to alpha hashed. And as you can see now, you cannot see the plane anymore because it's transparent. So now if I change the alpha back to 1, and now we can see the plane. Anyway, so this is the quick introduction to shading in Blender. Hopefully it helped you out. Leave a comment if you want me to make more videos, and I'll cover more nodes and other things you should know when creating materials. Please leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, guys. Goodbye.